All right, we're live. Cincy up 19-13. Missed extra point gives UCF a chance to win it here. They're at their own 20. Sha'Carri Brown looking, finds his man. And some more, a missed tackle, and just like that, maybe a late hit. Don't throw the flag, don't throw the flag, no flag. 48 seconds left. UCF has it at their own 40-yard line. They got 60 yards to go to reach the end zone, and they have to reach the end zone because they're down 19-13. Disregard the final on the bottom of the screen. I don't have an unpaid intern, and I am not going through the 3 computers that I have.
I'm ahead of you. Do you want me to wait for you on your word or what? I'm ahead of you.
Oh, my God. You're going to have to give me the play-by-play. Now's your opportunity, Nick. I know you were in the reporting game, the anchoring game. It's
never the play-by-play game. Never the play-by-play game.
Where are they at?
All right, we got a flag, so waiting to and you know what? I'm on mute. False start. All right, UCF false start. It's gonna be 1st and 15. Or illegal formation, one of the two. I can hear your game. I'm on silent here. 26 seconds, 1st and 15. Ball at the 40.
All right, we're back. We're even.
43.
Pressure. 43. Bearcats, hit him. Throw. Out of bounds. So it'll be 2nd and 15, 19 seconds to go.
All right, you're ahead of me now. Well, that's fine.
I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you.
Yeah, you give it to me. Yeah.
Welcome, everyone, into the
Nice
chat
play.
again. Disregard the record. The Cats are not 4-2. They're 3-2, looking to hit that 4th win, which would be more than all of last year if they can
Oh, my goodness.
pull this off. All right.
20 seconds left. Ball on the 43.
Sha'Carri
If they can win this, they better win this.
He's got all day. Sha'Carri Brown rolling. He's going to pick up about 5. He gets down to the 35. They got 12 seconds.
All right.
They got time with no more timeouts. They can go with the Hail Mary game and throw 2 up to the end zone. Or Malzahn can dial it up. He can put to work his genius here. And see if he can get maybe 10, get out of bounds, and then run one more play. But I think they're going to the end zone. Sha'Carri Brown's been pretty good, man.
Yeah, I mean, he ripped off like a 30-yard, run. This guy, was he 3rd on the depth chart?
Yeah, 8 seconds to go. They pick up the yards. 1st down, they're going to have to spike it. There's 4 seconds to go, so they're going to have about 2 seconds, and they're going to have it about the 23-yard line, a very manageable 25-yard touchdown for UCF to win this game. The Scott Satterfield experience, man. What the hell is going on? Why is this close? How is this a game? How do they have a chance to win right now? How is it statistically possible after that Tony Johnson touchdown?
I wish I had an answer. 3 seconds left.
All right. Here we go, folks. Final play of the game. It's going to be Sha'Carri Brown for UCF in his first game of the season. And Scott Satterfield's going to call one of his 3 timeouts. And
oh, my goodness.
what was the timeout situation you were telling me about with Malzahn?
When we stopped them on 3rd down, when they were down in the red zone, their last possession, they called a timeout just to kick a field goal. And you would think about to be on defense, you need all 3 timeouts to end the game. I guess not. I mean, here we are with them with a chance to win it. But I thought that was crazy. I mean, if you're going to rip a timeout just to kick a field goal.
It's the reason why his seat is scorching hot in that Orlando sun. Scorching hot.
It's got to be part of it.
But, I mean, Josh Heupel was a hell of a coach. I mean, he's a hell of a coach. If you could go to
Frost,
Tennessee
too,
and do what he's done there, I mean, Frost at least had the dud at Nebraska. Heupel's, I mean, no one goes to Tennessee and wins like that consistently. No one.
Did you see how many UCF fans were in there? Where they did a shot about 10 minutes left in the 4th quarter of the end zone, one of the end zones. We'll just call out some UCF fans.
The hurricane probably has a lot to do with that.
Okay, that's okay.
The sack.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. We'll end it on a somber note. Golday comes in for the sack.
Yes,
Bearcats are 4-2.
let's go.
Cincinnati wins, everyone. Let's do a post-game show. Welcome in.
They only allow 40,000 into tiny Nippert Stadium.
They say nothing good in life comes easy.
You had to buy football tickets to get basketball tickets. And basketball is the hot ticket because Bob Huggins had the Bearcats rolling.
Program that was rumored to be disbanding about 15, 20 years ago after some huge losses.
They say the longer you have to wait for something, the more you'll appreciate it when that someday comes.
Caught! Touchdown, Armand Benz!
We thought the moment had arrived,
They are in the playoff.
only to find out the moment's been too big.
Hey, go to hell.
At the end of the day, it's a business.
Present day, nobody believes in this team.
Scott Satterfield, no answers at the moment.
But with this program, the best things have come when you least expect it.
Number one, let's go.
And the Bearcats are up 16-0 in South Bend.
They're disciplined now. That loudspeaker came on and said leave the field. I mean, they turned it around now and got off the field.
Welcome to the only live Bearcats post-game show on YouTube. This is Chatterbox Bearcats. It deserves a little one. Not a big pop there, but it deserves a little one because the Bearcats do what they were supposed to do. They go on the road and they take down the Central Florida Knights 19-13. Welcome to Chatterbox Bearcats, everyone. You can find this show wherever you get your audio podcasts if you don't have time to stick around for the entire YouTube live. And for those of you listening in the mornings, if you're ever wanting some instant reaction Bearcats content after the horn sounds in basketball and football, we got you covered. Sometimes it's Houdini. Today it's Nick Niehaus with me. I'm Chuck Walter. Tony Johnson, Joe Royer, Jake Golday, Brendan Sorsby. Everybody stand up. UC gets it done. They're 4-2. That's more wins than last year. How about that? They're 2-1 in the Big 12 with a matchup coming up against Arizona State. We're breaking this entire thing down. This was a game that UC had to get out to early because UCF runs the ball. They do not throw the ball as well. Changes their strategy and puts some pressure on them when you do get out to an early lead on the Knights, which we've seen in the last few weeks. UC does that, and then they make mistakes of their own, and then missed extra point and a made 51-yard field goal. We get the Nathan Hawks experience. What the hell just transpired, Nick?
It was one of those things where when there had to be a play made, they made the play. Sorsby didn't have his best game. I don't think anybody would argue that. 2 picks, a few underthrown balls. If he goes out there and he balls like we've seen him this year, this isn't a close coming down to the last play game. But when it mattered, he had a great ball to Tony Johnson for a touchdown. When it mattered, Dante Corleone sacked their third quarterback on the depth chart twice on the final drive or second final drive. When it mattered, Corey Kiner had 9 yards ripped off on that last drive to keep killing the clock. So it wasn't pretty, but they got the job done.
That they did, man. And they are trending towards their first bowl game in a few years. Central Florida, KJ Jefferson's typically their quarterback. Bearcats fans know a thing or two about KJ Jefferson. He was the quarterback of that Arkansas team that finally took down the Bearcats in the regular season after that long win streak over the course of a couple of years where no one was taking down UC. We go down to Fayetteville, and KJ Jefferson gets the job done. And KJ Jefferson's been pretty good. Gets benched in this game. E.J. Colson takes over. He throws one pass, misses by about 17 feet, and then we see Jakari Brown. And Jakari Brown was pretty good, man. It's pretty good for UCF. The issue was they kept fumbling it. They turned it over their first 3 possessions. Fumble, and then UC stopped them on 4th down. So Sorsby has an errant pick on the first opportunity after the fumble. Just kind of throws it up, should have thrown it out of bounds. It's picked off. Then after that, UCF coughs it right back up. Jake Golday gets a hat on it. UC recovers. Works out well. We're inside the 10-yard line. Hawks field goal good, 3-0. Then they stop UCF on 4th down, and that was kind of the theme of the game, what UC was able to do when UCF kind of was on the doorstep. So Sorsby would rush it in right after that. It's 10-0. That's the recipe. Then Coach Satterfield stopped stirring on the soup or something because the recipe completely changed. UCF rattles off 10 unanswered. It's tied up 10-10. How was the mojo? How was the mindset at that point when UCF tied up this ball game in the third quarter?
Well, after we got that second fumble and we're only up 3-0, I'm sitting there and I'm looking at everybody and I'm like, gosh, like I feel like we should be up. It's going to sound like, okay, 14-0 when we're up 10-0. I mean, the big difference, 4 points, whatever. But like, it felt like we weren't taking advantage of the opportunities that we were given with the turnovers and the stops. And once it was tied up, it's like, oh my goodness, here we go again. Like, we have outplayed them. And I had it written down, like, if we lose this game, it's not UCF beat UC, UC beat UC. So to pull this one out feels really good.
Yeah, I thought UCF kind of saved the day for UC because if UCF on that first possession, they're carving through the defense, rushing it with ease. They pick up 7 before they fumble it inside, I think, like the UC 30 or 40. Like they were looking like they were going to get some points on that possession. And then when they get points, that's how they win football games because they can do what they want to do, and that is run the football at a very effective rate. When you jump out to a 10-0 lead, your game has to shift a little. And I did think Jakari Brown did a decent job of trying to move it down the field on him. But how about UC's defense, man? Specifically Jake Golday, who it sounds like, per the broadcast, came into Central Arkansas as an 190-pound defensive end, his move to an outside linebacker, and only a junior. So him and Joe Royer, who had an incredible day, stats upcoming, both of them will be back next year, most likely. You got to like that.
Yeah, I mean, they both wear the number 11, right? And it was like, gosh, is this guy playing both sides of the ball? They look like the same exact player.
I didn't think about
Golday,
that. They do.
Golday had an insane game. I mean, a couple sacks, right? And then he stripped the ball. Also, talking about UCF fumbling, UC like punched both of those out. So they're doing, whoever, is leading those drills and practices is give him some credit because those were both really good plays where they were punched out in Golday. I mean, a massive game. Yeah, like you said, junior, so a couple years with him. And no, I was making jokes. I'm like, is Joe Royer playing defense? Because they look pretty similar.
So rare game where Xavier Henderson didn't do much of anything. He had 2 catches for 21 yards along with 15. Jamoy Mays got some action with 4 catches for 27. But the 2 stars, Joe Royer, of course, 8 catches, 84 yards, and Tony Johnson, who had 8 catches for 76 yards and a touchdown. There was our first ever Tony Johnson drive where he was picking up yardage, gets hurt, comes back in, and ends up scoring the touchdown that really sealed it for Cincy. So nice job to see Tony Johnson out there. Corey Kiner had a quiet 83 yards, and that's because his first rush of the day was 46 of them. But he went 17 of 83. And then Sorsby, our fearless leader, made 2 mistakes. One of them a mistake, one just a bad throw that was a little behind his target. But he went 25 of 38, 240 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions. So much so to the point where the broadcasters said they revealed that Satterfield thinks our guy Sorsby is going to be playing on Sundays.
Yeah, and you see all these things midweek, like the PFF grades and all that, like in all these lists. And I mentioned this with basketball with Jizzle James and how Jizzle James seems to be on every list possible for this upcoming basketball season. Sorsby's the same way for football. It seems like he's on every list possible where he's getting great as a guy who will be playing on Sundays. And I think it's huge on the road, especially they're a rival at this point, right? So rivalry game on the road, you start off, you throw this errant interception where you just lob the ball up. I thought Joe Royer got pushed on that play. I'm not expecting a flag on that, but should have thrown it out of bounds. And I hate saying that because I like being aggressive, but some mistakes early and then to come out in the second half, and he just seemed like he was cooking. There was open receivers. He was finding them. and we were driving the ball down the field. So it was really cool to see him respond to a atmosphere where you're on the road playing a rival. You don't start off great, and then you come back and you calm yourself down and you ball out. So that was good to see from Sorsby.
I feel like Royer's just such a safety blanket for Sorsby. When you saw Brendan moving outside of the pocket early on, it just seemed like he was a little uncomfortable early. Like the pressure was getting to him. He was getting out and just didn't have time to make the throws. Had a man open in the end zone or something, but he'd throw it out of the back of the end zone. How many times did we see that just because he didn't really have the time to set his feet? And I know he's typically great on the run, but this was so huge today when he just could not find anyone to link up with before it was, Johnson. Royer was the one that got it started. He was always the safety blanket over the middle. I mean, Sorsby goes over the middle all the time, and usually he's finding Joe Royer. And then Royer's got some quickness where he picks up some yak. I mean, if I start saying, because on our basketball show I said, Jizzle James is the next Ja Morant, and then if I start saying Sorsby's playing on Sunday, and if I start saying Joe Royer's this, I'm going to sound like just an absolute jackass when none of these come true. But I think Royer is someone that could play on Sundays, man. With his 6'5" frame and, 240 and runs what looks like a 4.5, 4.6. I mean, we've produced some tight ends.
He's a beast. I think this has been said before on this podcast or reaction show before, but how was he not getting PT at OSU? Seriously,
they
Chuck,
have
I don't
four
know.
of those guys at OSU. They have four of those guys at OSU. That's why. It's different animal,
but
brother.
Give me all the guys that want to transfer away from OSU. I mean, we're seeing it with Joe Royer, Evan Pryor. Let's see, not a great game from him, but Royer's a beast. He is a safety blanket. That's the best way to put it. 8 receptions, 84 yards. On a day where your best wide receiver, Xavier Henderson, only has 2 receptions. That's what you need. You need guys to step up. And that's what I mentioned earlier. Step up. And they did when it mattered. And that is huge. And that's what gets you the win on the road against a rival.
Keep your points, Vegas. Bearcats cover. We're 4-2. Next up is Arizona State, who just took down Utah and is 5-1 on the season. Then we got Colorado on the road in Boulder. Then it's West Virginia at home. 3 games you'd love to win. Got to win one of those games if you want to go bowling this season, but you'd love to win 2 with the gauntlet that ensues. Then it's at number 11 Iowa State, at number 18 Kansas State, and then against TCU. It's clear to me after beating UCF on the road and demolishing Houston 34-0, and then seeing both those teams, Houston and UCF, beat TCU, that's the tier below us right now, correct? It seems like the top tier is for sure, BYU, Iowa State, Colorado, Kansas State. Maybe you want to throw Utah up there. I don't know. But there's that middle tier. It's like Texas Tech. It's like Baylor, West Virginia. I think even Oklahoma State may be below us. Where is Cincinnati in this conference right now? Like, I have no idea. There's so many teams that are just as good as one another. There's teams like Arizona and Utah and Oklahoma State that we won't even see this year to be able to prove that we're better than. Like, eye test to you. Where do we stack up in this conference?
Well, it's a lot like basketball where top to bottom, this conference is solid, but I'm not going to say that we're the best football conference in the country. I feel like that'd be crazy to say.
No,
obviously.
Don't even flirt with it.
No, yeah, I'm not. The fact that I even said it out loud is crazy enough. The fact
You
that
should
like,
feel
hey,
stupid.
if I said
You
it,
should feel
yeah,
stupid.
I should.
Yeah.
But the thing that correlates to basketball with Big 12 is top to bottom, everybody's solid. And I feel like that's the same way with football in terms of there's not a lot of separation for these teams. Now, the ceiling is not as high as it is with basketball, but the floor is, I don't know, just as high. We're right in the middle of the pack. There's no reason to think that we're a bottom feeder in the Big 12 for football this year. Think about last year in terms of, I mean, like you said, we already won more games, but
we just went on the road and controlled. We just controlled the bottom feeder.
Completely different team. Satterfield, this is a game where UC fans should look at Satterfield and feel comfortable riding with him. Road win at UCF. I don't know in terms.
I love winning. Don't get me wrong, and I love beating teams that it seems like we were better than. But the way they get it done sometimes, win or lose. The end of the first half, again, a missed field goal and just some poor clock management. Satterfield gets out there for the halftime interview. He's all flustered, telling the entire play-by-play breakdown of went down. He's sweating. He's going nuts. We're talking about his program. Like, it gets unsettling at times. And if you keep winning, go for it. I mean, back in the Bob Huggins days in basketball, it got unsettling many times in the Conference USA. Mick Cronin did the same thing in the American, but the difference was we won games that got slightly unsettling. You know, we took care of business.
Well, I'm a big Jimmy's and Joe's guys over X's and O's. Obviously, I'm not a football coach. You know what I mean? And the thing that I like what Satterfield did this year is go out in the portal and get some dogs. Sorsby, obviously, we're going to ride with Sorsby. Royer, we've been talking about him all episode, how huge he's been. And I know Kiner transferred before Satterfield took the job, but still maintaining these guys and keeping them on campus is still just as big as getting transfers in. And so to get these guys and to keep them is huge for me. So that's why it's funny. I mean, after that pit loss, we were saying, how long does Satterfield have? And here I am saying that UC fans should just ride and die with him. I get it. I'm volatile. Well,
aren't we
but
all?
That's a big win. That's a big win.
That's why we love sports. We're volatile.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as even keel.
Yeah.
So 27-19 was the score of the Utah game in favor of Arizona State, who's the next team that comes to Nippert next weekend. And unfortunately, let's go with fortunately first. Their quarterback isn't anything special. Doesn't do a ton through the air. Had just 150 yards in his last game. That's Sam Leavitt. Unfortunately, Cincinnati has not been good at stopping the run. Their bread and butter seems to be the running game. Cam Scatabo, number 4, the 5'11" running back who has 133 carries, 773 that would be a lot of touchdowns. Yards in 8 touchdowns with an average of 5.8. Just gashed Utah for 158, Kansas for 182, and earlier in the year against an SEC defense in Mississippi State, went for 262 yards. God bless. I mean, that's all I got to say. This one could get ugly. I like the fact that it's at home, man. I like the fact that it's at home. But Arizona State, I don't know a ton about them, but I do know that they're 5-1 and they run the football. That to me is a little bit terrifying.
Well, after the win last night, did you see? I'm going to ask you a question. Did you see the postgame?
The head coach,
interview
in the courts or the field storm, yeah.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen that, look it up. After you listen to this full show, of course.
It's going to be a letdown. Letdown game coming.
Yeah. Well, is Arizona State going to be ranked? They could be ranked, and we're talking about
24.
Obviously, we destroyed Houston. Houston stinks, so this point might not even be worth it. But talk about a good matchup with Houston, where their offense stinks and their defense was apparently decent before we played them. And I was like, okay, that was a good matchup for us. Like, our defense is not that good. We just pitched a shutout. Arizona State, that doesn't sound like a great matchup for us. So I'm going in like, home game. Let's defend the nip, right? Like, maybe if we can just commit to stopping the run, we can be able to pull one out. But I think Arizona State might be ranked. Why not? They're 5-1 in the Power 4.
Dude, it's going to be about a month later since we've last played at Nippert because of the bye and 2 back-to-back road games. Mm-hmm. Last time we played at Nippert was against Houston on the 21st of September. It was a shutout. It was Scott Satterfield's first ever home win in the Big 12. Remember that. So, hey, 2 in a row on the line at Nippert Stadium. And speaking of 2 in a row, I just want 1 against Ohio State. And it's not going to count because next Friday, or this upcoming Friday, is the Ohio State exhibition at Fifth Third Arena. Bearcats and Buckeyes. It's a game that we're going to see a lot of different rotations, and they're going to try to win, but it's not going to look like a real basketball game aside from a scoreboard, fans, a ref, and it's not going to be one of those secret scrimmages. I'll be there, baby. I'll be there. Just your overall thoughts heading into the basketball season. We've done a couple shows on it, so we're not going to spend too much time on a football Saturday, but this is the last time we will talk before that game, and of course we'll do a post-game after, assuming that my credential gets approved and I didn't piss anyone off.
Well, the Ohio State game will be interesting, especially for a couple reasons. A, it's Ohio State, so that's going to be interesting, even though it's an exhibition. But Sean Stewart, Remember that? Trying to get Sean Stewart. We thought he was a Bearcat. He's going to be coming into Fifth Third Arena as a Buckeye. Now, no hard feelings, because guess who we got? Dylan Mitchell. So everything happens for a reason. But no, I'm intrigued. I'm the king. I mean, yeah, I just said earlier I'm volatile. I'm the king of overreacting, underreacting, whatever. But, oh gosh, I know it's an exhibition, but God, I just want to beat Ohio State. I really do. I'm one of those guys. I mean, everybody, we live in Ohio. Why don't you like Ohio State? Get out of here. Get out of my face. I hate Ohio State. We need to win this exhibition. That's crazy to say.
It's tough, man. Ohio State is just maybe not in the 60s in basketball, the 50s and 60s. It appears like we were the better team. But since then, the thing is, too, you take the 90s and even the early 2000s until the Oden years, we play Ohio State consistently. We're probably beating them up like Miami, maybe not like Miami, but like Dayton. And they didn't play us. And then finally we get to play them with Mick Cronin's first team, John Williamson, Marcus Sykes, Marvin Gentry, and of course we get shellacked. They got Oden, they got Conley. Then we play them years later in the tournament. We actually play them tough, but that Ohio State team had like Diebler and Sullinger. They were loaded, so of course they beat us. Then we get to play them again in Maui, right? And it was like a John Brannon team, or it was Wes Miller's first team, and they were just terrible, and we got ran off the floor. And it's like, can we play this team when we're good? We're supposed to be good. We're playing the team. Unfortunately, it's not going to count. Any final thoughts from the football game today? Ran through the stats. Antoine Peak's a name we haven't mentioned. He had 6 solo tackles. He's looked really good. Bartlett's been sensational, had a sack and 6 of them. And then Golday, man, 2 tackles for losses and a sack. No interceptions for Cincinnati. And give shouts to Mason Fletcher, who did change the game with a punt inside the 2-yard line.
Yeah, no.
Best punter in America.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to the guys who just made plays when it mattered. I know that's how I started it off, but Sorsby didn't have the best game in the first half, made plays when it mattered. Dante Corleone, 2 sacks down the stretch. Corey Kiner, 9 yards to start off that final drive to keep killing the clock. Guys made plays when it mattered, and that's a sign of a good football team. So it was awesome. Good to get a win on the road against, even if they were struggling. It's a win against UCF. I hate UCF fans. Good
it's
to get
on
a win
a
against
Saturday. It's early. You got time in the night to celebrate it. So go out and do just that. Give a few down the drives and have some fun. Go Bearcats. They're 4-2. Next up is Arizona State. This is Chatterbox Cats. If you got this far, thumbs up. Give us the subscribe. Tell a couple buddies. Join us for the basketball post-game shows too. First one being Friday against Ohio State. Those are going to overlap for a while. That's going to be a fun time of the year. Going to have shows left and right. For Nick Niehaus, Chuck Walter, peace everyone. And if you missed some of the show, we will see you on the audio podcast platform of your choosing in the morning, where you should leave us a 5-star and tell us go. I'm not going to say it just because